Think you know what strength is? Forget fancy gyms and typical weightlifting routines. In the world of wrestling, where physical power is a weapon and strength can change history, there have been individuals whose abilities will make you say, "There's no way that's real." From WWE's destruction machines and elite bodybuilders to undefeated legends from across the globe, they all have one thing in common: a level of strength that goes beyond anything considered normal. Get ready, today's list might just make you question reality itself. Number 10. Alexander Carolyn, Russia's unbeatable experiment. If there's anyone who looks like a real-life comic book character, it's Alexander Carolyn. With superhuman strength and an almost mythical competitive record, he's not only a Greco-Roman wrestling legend, but also a symbol of raw, unmatched power. Born in the icy Siberian tundra in 1967, Carolyn stunned the entire hospital staff when he entered the world weighing 15 pounds, nearly 7. That's an unbelievable number, especially considering his mother stood under 5 feet 7 inches. Even as a child, he had a giant frame and physical potential that few could match. He started training in Greco-Roman wrestling at age 13 and quickly stood out. But at just 15, a serious leg fracture during a competition nearly ended his budding career. Most thought he was finished, but Carolyn not only recovered, he came back stronger than ever. With years of dedicated training under experienced coaches, he transformed into a literal fighting machine. Standing 6 feet 4 inches and weighing 289 pounds, Carolyn wasn't just big. He was agile, enduring, and explosively fast. Early on, even his coaches doubted him. He couldn't manage a single pull-up. But just a few years later, he could do 42. His unmatched strength showed in his record. Carolyn is the only Greco-Roman wrestler in history to win 3 consecutive Olympic gold medals, plus 1 silver. Even more impressively, over 13 years of peak competition, he lost only once, and that loss was extremely controversial. For an entire decade, not a single opponent managed to score even 1 point against him. Media and rivals nicknamed him the Experiment, with rumors swirling that his strength must have come from some kind of secret scientific program. Whether true or not, one fact is undeniable. Carolyn embodied dominance and invincibility. His signature move, the Carolyn Lift, also called the Carolyn Slam, is a perfect example of his raw power. In this brutal technique, Carolyn would lift a 130-plus opponent off the mat while they were lying face down and resisting, and throw them over his shoulder like a sandbag. Even among pros, it's a move so difficult that it's admired more than attempted. In WWE, moves like this are carefully choreographed, but with Carolyn, it was 100% real. Beyond wrestling, Carolyn is also a symbol of discipline, mental toughness, and unshakable determination. Born in one of the coldest, harshest environments on Earth, he proved that with enough willpower and strength, humans can push past any limit, even the ones we thought were impossible. Alexander Carolyn isn't just an athlete. He's a living legend. A man whose existence challenges everything we thought we knew about human strength. And if you had to name the strongest man to ever live, many wouldn't hesitate to point straight at him. Number 9. Bill Casmir, the muscle machine from hell. If Alexander Carolyn represents unmatched technique and endurance, then Bill Casmir is the embodiment of raw, brute power, a true muscle machine whose presence alone could shake entire arenas. Born to lift, crush, and break every limit, Casmir wasn't just an athlete. He was a phenomenon that redefined what it meant to be strong. In the world of the planet's strongest men, Casmir is a name that cannot be ignored. He dominated the world's strongest man competition, an event gathering the most powerful men from across the globe, winning 3 consecutive titles in 1980, 1981, and 1982. These victories didn't just prove his superiority, they cemented his place as a legend in the world of strength sports. Just looking at his numbers is enough to make jaws drop. Casmir bench-pressed 661 pounds, squatted 925 pounds, and deadlifted more than 885 pounds. These aren't fantasy stats, they're real feats he achieved on stage, often with terrifying ease. His body looked like it was forged in a factory for power, with rippling muscles and a frame built like reinforced steel. But Casmir didn't stop with strongman contests. He stepped into the world of professional wrestling. He competed in WCW, one of the biggest wrestling promotions at the time, and later wrestled in New Japan Pro Wrestling. While not a technical wizard like some of his peers, he captivated crowds with the sheer, monstrous power he brought into the ring. When he entered the arena, he moved like a living boulder, slow, deliberate, and utterly unstoppable. His wrestling moves were simple, stripped down, but delivered with such explosive force that his opponents often looked like sandbags being tossed across the mat. When Casmir slammed someone, it didn't look like technique, it looked like they were hit by a runaway truck. Outside the ring and the weight room, Casmir stood for dedication and belief in inner strength. He believed that anyone could become strong with the right training, and he was living proof. He once said, "I don't train just to be the strongest in the world. I train so no one else can even come close." With a physique that looked chiseled from stone and a will that never backed down, Bill Casmir wasn't just strong. He was the pure, untamed force of nature itself. And no matter how much time passes, the image of this man lifting the unimaginable will remain etched in the memory of anyone lucky enough to witness his power. Number 8. Big Show, the immovable giant. In professional wrestling, a world filled with massive physiques and bulging muscles, one man still manages to stand out above the rest, literally and figuratively. That man is Big Show, also known as Paul White, a towering presence who makes the wrestling ring look like a playground whenever he steps into it. Standing 7 feet tall and weighing over 440 pounds, Big Show is like a walking wall in the middle of a sea of big men. But what makes him a true legend isn't just his sheer size, it's the real power behind it. Not all big men are strong, but with Big Show, size and strength go hand in hand. He's lifted Mark Henry, a man once dubbed the world's strongest man, like it was nothing more than a warm-up. He's launched John Cena out of the ring and even hoisted up the Great Khali, who stood 7 feet 1 inch and weighed over 420 pounds, without hesitation. These weren't just staged moments, they were authentic displays of unmatched power. Inside the ring, Big Show didn't need fancy technique. With his legendary KO punch, a quick, clean, devastating strike, he knocked out countless opponents with a single blow. When that massive fist came flying, very few ever stayed on their feet. His career is as impressive as his physique. Big Show is one of the very few wrestlers to have held championship titles in all 4 major promotions: WWE, WCW, ECW, and the World Heavyweight Championship. Each title was a testament to both his raw strength and his surprising ability to adapt to any style of competition. Despite his bulky frame, Big Show could pull off moves that seemed impossible for someone his size. He's walked the top rope to deliver an elbow drop, dodged attacks with surprising agility, and even executed maneuvers faster than opponents half his weight. That's what made him different. Not just a giant, but a dangerous, agile, and unpredictable one. Offstage, Paul White is known to be a humorous, kind-hearted figure, loved by fans and fellow wrestlers alike. But the moment he steps over those ropes, he transforms into a nightmare for anyone in his path. The crowd can feel the ground shake, and the energy in the arena shifts, because they know an unstoppable force is on the move. Big Show is the living proof of one brutal truth: size isn't everything, unless you're Paul White. And in any list of wrestlers whose strength defies belief, his name belongs near the very top. Number 7. Bruno Sammartino, the Iron Man of wrestling's golden age. In an era when wrestlers didn't rely on flashy lighting, television effects, or social media to build their image, Bruno Sammartino became an icon through sheer strength and unshakable resilience. He wasn't just a champion, he was a living symbol of iron will and superhuman endurance, an irreplaceable figure from the early days of WWE. Born in Italy and raised in hardship following World War II, Bruno didn't enter the wrestling world seeking fame. He entered with an indomitable spirit. Starting from scratch, he sculpted his body through relentless training and quickly became a powerhouse. Nicknamed Superman in the ring, he stunned audiences in the 1960s and 70s by bench pressing over 565 pounds, a nearly unthinkable feat at a time when supplements and modern sports science were practically non-existent. Bruno wasn't just built like a tank. He was constantly willing to prove his strength anywhere, even in private arm wrestling matches against some of the strongest men of his era, and most of the time, he won. These unrecorded feats became the stuff of legend, spreading his name far beyond the reach of televised wrestling. But what truly elevated Bruno Sammartino to legendary status wasn't just his strength, it was the record no one has come close to breaking. He held the WWF World Heavyweight Championship for 2,803 consecutive days, from 1963 to 1971. That's not just dominance, it's a reign of mythical proportions. In total, he held the championship for 4,040 days, the longest cumulative title reign in the history of professional wrestling. With his square build, stern expression, and commanding presence, Bruno was the embodiment of the old-school wrestling era, where dedication, toughness, and honesty toward fans were sacred values. He didn't rely on gimmicks or dramatic promos, just heart, grit, and the will to fight. His legacy goes beyond titles and records. It lives on through the respect he earned from the industry's greatest names. In 2013, Bruno was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, introduced by none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the most iconic figures in bodybuilding history. Arnold called him the strongest man I've ever known, and the crowd rose to their feet in a moment of pure respect. Bruno Sammartino is a timeless pillar of WWE, a man whose strength came not from spotlight and spectacle, but from calloused hands, real muscle, and a heart that never surrendered. For him, every match was a vow of honor, and that vow was never broken. Number 6. John Cena, the endurance machine behind Never Give Up. If there's anyone who combines overwhelming physical power with an unbreakable fighting spirit, it's John Cena. He's not called one of the greatest in WWE history for nothing. Beyond his charisma and mic skills, Cena is also one of the most durable and physically dominant wrestlers ever to step into the ring. You don't have to look far for proof. Just watch the moment when Cena lifted both Big Show and Edge at the same time, over 700 pounds, onto his shoulders and hit the iconic attitude adjustment. That legendary moment isn't just unforgettable for WWE fans. It's a clear, undeniable display of his raw, explosive power. But Cena's greatness isn't just about strength, it's about relentless endurance. During his peak years, he wrestled constantly, rarely taking breaks, and even returned to action weeks after injuries that would sideline most people for months. His pain tolerance and fast recovery made him a true fighting machine, strong, flexible, and fueled by a spirit that refused to quit. When it comes to hard numbers, Cena has bench pressed up to 465 pounds, an incredible feat even by professional powerlifting standards. More importantly, he maintained that level of training not to show off, but to ensure peak performance every time he stepped into the ring. For Cena, strength was never about ego. It was a foundation for survival in the brutal world of pro wrestling and a way to make sure his opponents never got the upper hand. His career is just as historic as his physique. John Cena is one of only 2 men in history to win 16 world championships, sharing that record with the legendary Ric Flair. Unlike many stars who fade after their prime, Cena stayed on top for nearly 2 decades, headlining unforgettable matches, taking on the toughest opponents, and igniting crowds night after night. His fitness didn't just power signature moves, it allowed him to go the distance in long, grueling matches. Whether it was an Iron Man match, last man standing, or any fight that pushed human limits, Cena was always the last man standing, sometimes bloodied, battered, but never broken. John Cena is living proof of the motto he lives by, never give up. It's more than a catchphrase, it's a way of life. A perfect fusion of muscle and mindset. And when it comes to the strongest wrestlers of all time, Cena doesn't just belong on the list. He stands as the gold standard of strength, heart, and unwavering determination. Number 5. The Great Khali, the giant from the Himalayas. In a world where standing over 6 feet 7 inches is already rare, the Great Khali was on a whole other level. At 7 feet 1 inch, he wasn't just one of the tallest men to ever step into a WWE ring. He was a towering force of nature who left entire arenas in stunned silence the moment he appeared. With a massive frame, a cold, menacing stare, and footsteps that felt like thunder, Khali was the walking nightmare no one wanted to face. But he wasn't just tall. Khali possessed terrifying strength. In several unforgettable matches, he effortlessly lifted John Cena, who weighs over 240 pounds, and slammed him to the mat like tossing around a toy. With arms as thick as tree trunks, Khali didn't need flashy techniques. One swing of those colossal limbs could knock opponents completely off balance. One of his most frightening traits was his crushing grip strength. With hands so massive they looked unreal, he could break wooden chairs, bend metal, and had stars like Batista and The Undertaker writhing in pain from his devastating Khali vice grip. A brutal move where he clamps both hands around an opponent's head and squeezes with relentless pressure. It wasn't just a wrestling move, it was the terrifying combination of raw size, strength, and inescapable force. As for accomplishments, the Great Khali became World Heavyweight Champion, one of WWE's most prestigious titles. That victory wasn't just a career milestone, It was proof of his dominance every time he stepped into the ring. Khali was never known for speed or technical finesse, but he didn't need to be. He was the living embodiment of primal strength, the kind of presence that made people instinctively back away at first glance. With an unreal physique and grip strength capable of bending steel, Khali rightfully earns his place among the most intimidating giants in WWE history. Until you've stood face to face with him, you'll never truly understand what a real mismatch in strength feels like. Number 4. Braun Strowman, WWE's Muscle Storm. If there's one man who defines raw, uncontrollable power in modern WWE, it's Braun Strowman. With a hulking build, a fierce beard, and eyes that burn with intensity, Strowman is the physical embodiment of a storm unleashed every time he enters the ring. Before becoming a WWE phenomenon, Strowman was a professional strongman competitor, where strength, not skill or showmanship, is the only measure. At his peak, he could squat over 800 pounds and deadlift more than 900 pounds. These monstrous numbers don't just speak to his physical abilities, they prove that he was built to dominate through brute force. When he made the leap to WWE, Braun didn't disappoint. He left fans speechless when he flipped over an ambulance with one hand, a stunt most people couldn't pull off with a compact car. He's also toppled steel structures, collapsed parts of the stage, and flipped an entire semi-truck trailer using nothing but his own strength. No camera tricks, no wires, just pure muscle. Despite being a walking tank, Strowman brings more than just raw power to the table. He has shocking speed and agility for a man his size. In many matches, he charged like a freight train, launching opponents off their feet with a single full-speed collision. On the championship front, Braun has held both the Universal title and the Intercontinental title, two of the most prestigious belts in WWE. But what fans remember most isn't just the gold, it's the jaw-dropping feats of strength that seem to defy the laws of physics. Braun Strowman is not your average strongman. He's primal power made flesh, wrapped in the form of a modern gladiator. When his fury erupts, there's simply no stopping the monster. Number 3. The Great Gama, the undefeated legend of wrestling. If there's one figure in wrestling history who commands universal respect, it's the Great Gama, the Indian warrior whose power and accomplishments defied all logic. Born Ghulam Muhammad, he stood just about 5 feet 8 inches and weighed close to 240 pounds. But don't let the numbers fool you. Once he stepped onto the mat, Gama wasn't just a man, he was a living nightmare. Over the course of more than 50 years, the Great Gama competed in over 5,000 matches, and never lost a single one. Not even the top wrestlers from wrestling powerhouses like England, the US, Iran, or Russia could defeat him. Most challengers didn't ask for a rematch. One bout was enough to know they'd faced true power. Gama's training regimen was the stuff of legend. He was known to lift stones weighing up to 2,600 pounds, perform 5,000 squats and 3,000 push-ups daily, year after year. These weren't exaggerated tales, they were the foundation of his unmatched dominance. One of his most famous victories came against Rahim Bakhsh Sultanawala, a towering opponent over 6 feet 6 inches and nearly 330 pounds. Gama not only defeated him but went on to conquer champions from across Europe and the Middle East. No one could take him down. Even Bruce Lee reportedly modeled parts of his own training after Gama's legendary routines. When the Great Gama passed away in 1960, hundreds of thousands attended his funeral. Because he wasn't just a wrestler, he was a symbol of willpower, strength, and invincibility, a man whom sports history will never forget. Number 2. Andre the Giant, the colossal legend from myth. Andre the Giant wasn't just a man, he was a phenomenon. A living legend with a body so massive it seemed almost unreal. Standing at 7 feet 4 inches and weighing over 500 pounds, Andre wasn't just one of the biggest superstars in WWE history. He was a force of nature, someone who made everyone else look small just by stepping into the ring. Born with acromegaly, a rare condition causing abnormal growth, Andre's body never stopped developing. But what was even more astonishing was how he used that massive frame, not just to overpower opponents, but to dominate the world of professional wrestling for nearly 15 years without a single clean loss. His strength bordered on the supernatural. It's said he once drank over 100 beers in one sitting without passing out, a feat that's become legendary, not just for its absurdity, but for what it revealed about his size and endurance. Stories of Andre cradling multiple wrestlers like dolls, or needing custom-built vehicles just to travel, feel more like myths than memories, but they're real. Andre's impact went far beyond the ring. In 1993, he became the very first inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame, a tribute reserved for the most iconic figure in wrestling's long, storied past. And to this day, no other giant has ever come close to matching his influence. Number 1. Mark Henry, the real-life Incredible Hulk. If anyone in WWE ever truly deserved the nickname the Incredible Hulk, it's Mark Henry. His presence in the ring felt like a walking earthquake, and his devastating signature move, the world's strongest slam, hit with the force of a freight train. One slam was enough to crush any opponent, and watching him wrestle was like witnessing a giant python squeeze the life out of its prey. Born in 1971, standing 6 feet 4 inches and weighing in at a massive 412 pounds at his peak, Mark Henry was more than just a mountain of a man. He was pure power made flesh. From a young age, he was captivated by wrestling, inspired by none other than Andre the Giant. As a boy in Texas, Henry once tried to reach out and touch Andre at an event, only to fall over the barricade. That moment became a life-changing memory when the Giant himself lifted young Henry back into the crowd. It was a silent promise Mark made to himself. One day, the world will look up at me the way I just looked up at him. That promise didn't fade. It became his mission. In 1992, Henry represented the United States at the Summer Olympics in Barcelona as a super heavyweight in weightlifting. Just 3 years later, at the Pan American Games, he took home gold, silver, and bronze, a rare achievement in professional sports. Recognizing his unmatched strength and intimidating physique, WWE signed Henry in 1996, making him the first athlete they ever trained from scratch, a long-term investment in raw power. Henry not only lived up to their expectations, he shattered them. He joined the controversial faction Nation of Domination and quickly developed a reputation as a ruthless powerhouse who commanded respect across the locker room. Despite battling injuries throughout his career, Mark Henry remained a force in WWE for over 2 decades. He defeated legends like Shawn Michaels, Kane, Big Show, and even The Undertaker. But for Henry, crushing opponents wasn't personal, it was just part of the job. Beyond the ring, he made history in the world of strength sports by setting a world record in raw powerlifting, a style that uses no supportive gear, no belts, no suits, just pure strength. It proved that his power wasn't special effects or showbiz, it was real, raw, and awe-inspiring. Mark Henry wasn't just strong, he was domination personified, a blend of sheer size, iron will, and a heart that never gave up. If physical strength had a face, it would undoubtedly be the face of the world's strongest man. Bonus: Hercules, the symbol of strength even the gods respected. There are individuals so powerful that even the gods take notice, and Hercules is one of them. He wasn't just a hero from Greek mythology, he was the living embodiment of raw strength, boundless courage, and the ability to overcome trials that no one else dared to face. Born from the union of Zeus, king of the gods, and the mortal woman Alcmene, Hercules carried the blood of both man and deity. Zeus disguised himself as Alcmene's husband, Amphitryon, to deceive her, an act that led to the birth of a child whose strength would reshape the world. From a young age, Hercules displayed superhuman power. But his life was far from a simple tale of glory. Tragedy, betrayal, and the jealous wrath of the gods, especially from Hera, Zeus's wife, plagued him constantly. It was Hera who cursed him into committing an unthinkable act, and as penance, Hercules was forced to complete the legendary 12 labors, tasks deemed impossible for any mortal. Among them was the defeat of the Nemean lion, a beast whose hide was impervious to weapons. Hercules strangled it with his bare hands, then used its own claws to skin it, crafting the pelt into an invincible cloak, a signature armor he would wear in many battles to come. Another legendary feat was cleaning the Augean stables, which held thousands of cattle and hadn't been cleaned in decades. Using a combination of sheer muscle and clever strategy, Hercules rerouted 2 mighty rivers to wash the filth away, in less than a day. Hercules wasn't a wrestler in the modern sense. But in terms of size, endurance, physical dominance, and a spirit that refused to break, he more than earns his place on any list of history's strongest legends. Whether in mythology, atop Mount Olympus, or in the collective memory of mankind, Hercules remains an eternal symbol of what humans, or demigods, can achieve when they refuse to bow to fate. These aren't just strong individuals, they are living icons, monuments to power, will, and history. How many of these names did you already know? And which one blew you away the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, And don't forget to follow Wrestling Sphere for more unbelievable stories from the world of wrestling and beyond.